Elon wakes up at 5 a.m., works 100+ hours a week, and eats once a day. I tried it for 7 days, and I barely survived. Elon Musk is one of those figures who seems to operate on a different plane of existence. He doesn't just have goals, he has species-altering missions. He doesn't just work hard, he works with a ferocity that makes the rest of us look like we're moving in slow motion. His reported routine is the stuff of legend, waking up before the sun, working more than 100 hours a week, scheduling his day in 5-minute blocks, and subsisting on what seems like willpower and a single meal. It's a schedule that sounds less like a productive life and more like a human battery-draining experiment designed by a malevolent AI. And for some reason, a little voice in my head, the same one that convinces me I can definitely assemble IKEA furniture without the instructions, thought, I should try that. So, I decided to embark on a quest. For 1 full week, I would attempt to live like Elon Musk. Why? Part of it was pure curiosity. Is this the secret sauce? Is this extreme borderline monastic lifestyle the key to unlocking God-tier productivity and world-changing ideas? Or is it just a fast-track ticket to a spectacular burnout, complete with hallucinations of talking monkeys and an overwhelming urge to nap under my desk? My normal life is a comfortable, chaotic dance with the procrastination monkey, punctuated by moments of panic-induced focus from the panic monster. This experiment felt like firing both of them and hiring a relentless, caffeine-fueled robot drill sergeant to run my brain instead. The journey began on a Monday, and the 5 a.m. alarm felt less like a gentle nudge and more like a physical assault. My brain, accustomed to waking up closer to 8 a.m., staged a silent, groggy protest. It threw every excuse it had at me. It's still dark, the bed is so warm, what if sleep is the real key to productivity? I had to physically roll out of bed to prevent my instant gratification monkey from hitting the snooze button into oblivion. The first hour was a blur of cold water on my face and a strong cup of coffee that felt less like a treat and more like essential life support machinery. I sat down at my desk at 5:30 a.m., staring at a color-coded schedule that looked like a work of abstract art. It was beautiful, terrifying, and utterly foreign. My first task was a 4-hour block of deep work dedicated to writing. Normally, my first hour of work involves checking emails, reading news, and generally easing into the day. But the Musk schedule demanded immediate, ruthless immersion. It was surprisingly difficult. My brain kept trying to wander off, to think about breakfast, which wasn't coming, to check my phone, which was in another room, or to just stare blankly at the wall. I felt like I was trying to tame a wild animal. I had to constantly drag my focus back to the task at hand, minute by minute. By 9:30 a.m., I had written a decent amount, but I was also mentally exhausted. It felt like I had already worked a full day. The rest of the day was a relentless march through my scheduled blocks. Emails were batched into a single 30-minute slot. Project planning was allocated another 2 hours. There were no breaks for a casual YouTube video or a quick scroll through social media. The lack of these small dopamine snacks was jarring. I realized how much my brain relied on them to break up the monotony of work. Without them, the day stretched out like an endless desert of responsibility. Lunchtime came and went without food, a truly bizarre experience that left me feeling hollow and weirdly disconnected from the normal rhythm of life. By the time 6 p.m. rolled around, it was time for my one and only meal. I had planned it meticulously, a large, balanced plate of protein, vegetables, and complex carbs. I ate it slowly, savoring every bite. The rush of energy was immediate and powerful, but it was followed by a strange lethargy. Pushing through another 4 hours of work after dinner was a monumental struggle. When I finally shut my laptop at 10 p.m., I didn't feel accomplished. I felt like a zombie who had just finished a very long, very boring shift at the apocalypse factory. Waking up on day 2 was somehow even harder than day 1. My body ached. My brain felt like it was wrapped in a thick, foggy blanket. The novelty had worn off, replaced by the grim reality. The 5 a.m. alarm was my nemesis, a harbinger of another grueling day. As I sat at my desk, the coffee didn't seem to work its usual magic. My focus was scattered. The procrastination monkey was back with a vengeance. He whispered sweet nothings about one little peek at Twitter, or that researching the history of staplers was legitimate. It took immense willpower to keep my document open. The hunger was the real villain. By midday, it had become a nagging, distracting presence. Every smell, every thought, every TV commercial. I fantasized about a simple sandwich like it was winning the lottery. This low-grade suffering made complex tasks nearly impossible. My brain ran on fumes. Deep work blocks became me just staring at the screen, negotiating with my stomach. The productivity I chased felt like a mirage. By Wednesday, day 3, irritability arrived. Sleep deprivation plus constant hunger wore my patience thin. Every minor inconvenience felt catastrophic. A slow-loading web page, a misplaced pen, a typo. I felt disconnected, observing from behind a pane of glass. My scheduled work blocks became a battleground. 15 minutes solid focus, then my brain checked out for 10, lost in fatigue and cheeseburger daydreams. Not genius focus, just grumpy and dazed, someone who really needed a nap and a snack. The social isolation started to weigh on me. Evenings that meant relaxing with my partner or catching up with friends were now just more work time. A friend's "wanna hang?" text felt like a taunt. I politely declined, explaining the experiment, which made me sound pretentious and miserable. I worked more hours than ever, yet got less done. Creativity at an all-time low, problem-solving replaced by a desire to lie face down on the floor. This wasn't working. I was tired, hungry, and mean. Thursday, day 4, was the day I hit the wall. I woke up at 5 a.m. feeling completely and utterly defeated. My body felt heavy, my mind was a swamp, and just the thought of another 14-hour workday filled me with a sense of dread so profound it was almost, well, comical. The first few hours were a complete write-off. I sat at my desk, sipping my coffee, and honestly, I accomplished absolutely nothing. The procrastination monkey wasn't just whispering anymore. He was screaming, doing backflips, and setting off fireworks. He insisted that the entire experiment was pointless and that the most productive thing I could possibly do was go back to bed. For the first time all week, I seriously considered quitting. I was at a crossroads. I could either give in, admit defeat, and order a celebratory "I quit" pizza, or I could try to push through. I decided on a small compromise. I took an unscheduled 15-minute break. I stepped away from my desk, walked outside, and just breathed the fresh air. It wasn't on Musk's 5-minute block schedule, but honestly, I was desperate. Something about that small act of rebellion seemed to reset my brain. When I returned to my desk, I didn't feel magically energized, but I felt a renewed sense of resolve. I told myself to just focus on the next 5 minutes, and then the next, and the next. It was a strategy of breaking down an impossibly large mountain into a series of tiny, manageable pebbles. And then, slowly but surely, something started to shift. By Thursday afternoon, the gnawing hunger had subsided into a dull, manageable background noise. My body, it seemed, was starting to adapt. The mental fog began to lift, not completely, but enough. I managed to get into a state of flow for a solid 2 hours. It wasn't a euphoric, world-changing burst of inspiration, but it was a quiet, steady focus. I was finally making progress, and the feeling of accomplishment started to outweigh the feeling of suffering. Day 5, Friday, felt like a turning point. Waking up at 5 a.m. was still hard, but it was no longer a soul-crushing experience. I knew what to expect, how to handle the initial grogginess and the midday energy slump. I had found a rhythm within the rigidity. The one-meal-a-day strategy became a rewarding ritual. The work felt like a mission, and I was starting to see real, tangible results. Saturday was the day everything clicked. It was the day I finally understood, on a visceral level, what this insane routine was all about. I woke up at 5 a.m., not with dread, but with a strange sense of calm purpose. The weekend I usually guard as rest and unstructured fun became another opportunity for deep, focused work. Instead of resentment, I felt powerful. While the rest of the world slept in, I was already 2 hours into a project with my mind sharp and clear. The usual weekend distractions were gone. Brunch plans, errands, aimless web surfing, leaving a vast, quiet expanse of time. Mid-morning, working on a tricky part of a project, I experienced a breakthrough. An idea I'd wrestled with for weeks untangled itself. The solution arrived with startling clarity. My brain, starved of cheap dopamine hits and constant context switching, had been forced to rewire itself. It dug deeper and made connections I wouldn't have otherwise made. That single insight beat 5 days of struggle, a genuine eureka moment. The rest of the day became sustained, high-quality focus. Hours flew by. 5-minute blocks no longer felt like a prison. They felt like a ladder climbing toward my goal. The absence of distractions created a mental silence perfect for creativity. I wasn't just ticking boxes, I was engaging deeply with my work. I felt like a craftsman in a quiet workshop. By my one meal, I felt profound satisfaction. Over 12 hours of real work and a major breakthrough. The exhaustion was clean and well-earned. Sunday, the final day, felt like the last lap of a marathon. I was exhausted, but the finish line was in sight. Waking up at 5 a.m. felt almost routine by this point, a familiar ritual to start the day. The final boss wasn't about fighting fatigue or hunger anymore. It was about maintaining focus and pushing through to the very end. The temptation to ease up, to coast through the last day, was strong. The instant gratification monkey saw the light at the end of the tunnel and desperately wanted to start celebrating early. But I had come this far, and I was determined to finish strong. I put in another full day of work, ticking off the last of the scheduled blocks on my now familiar color-coded calendar. The productivity from Saturday carried over, and I slipped into a state of flow. I looked back at the work I had accomplished, and the volume was staggering. The 100-hour work week felt abstract and terrifying at the start, but was now a reality. I had actually done it. I closed my laptop for the last time on Sunday night. Relief and quiet pride. I had survived. I had faced the beast and lived to tell the tale. Evening. Quiet reflection, journaling about the experience. My body felt like it had been through a war, leaner from restricted eating and muscles aching from sitting so long. But my mind felt strangely cleansed. A week-long brain detox, flushing out noise and clutter. After a week of living on planet Musk, returning to Earth feels both wonderful and strange. Sleeping in until 7:30 a.m. felt like the ultimate luxury. Eating 3 meals a day felt like a decadent feast. The first sip of my morning coffee was no longer about survival. It was about pure, simple pleasure. So, the big question. Was it worth it? And would I recommend it? The answer, like most things in life, is complicated. It's a classic yes, but situation. Trying this routine for a week was an incredibly valuable experience. It was like a hard reset for my brain, recalibrating my understanding of productivity, focus, and my own capabilities. It showed me what is possible when you strip away the non-essential. Would I adopt this lifestyle permanently? Absolutely not. Not in a million years. It is fundamentally unsustainable for a normal human being with a desire for a balanced life that includes relationships, hobbies, and spontaneous joy. The routine is a brute force algorithm for maximizing professional output, and it treats the human body and mind as components to be optimized. The social isolation and the sheer physical and mental strain are not just side effects. They are integral parts of the system. However, I wouldn't trade the experience for anything. I learned that I am capable of far more focus than I give myself credit for. I learned that most of my breaks are just forms of procrastination. I learned the power of batching tasks and the magic of uninterrupted deep work. While I won't be working 100-hour weeks or eating one meal a day, I will be incorporating elements of the routine into my life. So, should you try it? I would cautiously recommend a modified version, a Musk weekend or a 3-day sprint. Don't do it to become Elon Musk. Do it to learn about yourself. Use it as a diagnostic tool. It's brutal, but the clarity might be worth the pain. As for me, I think I'll try it again someday. But not next week. Next week, I have a very important, unscheduled appointment with my couch and a pizza.